Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in this tutorial I'd like to show you how to make your very own Helm flower pendant or earrings that I just threw on the ground. You're gonna have to watch the tutorial to see how they come out, so let's get started. I wanted to begin by showing you an example of what we're going to be making. I call these Helm flowers because it kind of looks a little bit like a flower, but it also, depending on how you're looking at it, can look a lot like a Celtic knot. In this tutorial, I'm only using one layer of these smaller cross rings, those three there, but there is enough room for you to double up on it. But that's entirely up to you, it's your own preference. So the rings that I'm using here are all aluminum, but I have three different colors. I have a like brassy anodized, a nickel silver anodized, and then a plain, and then with a brown. That way we can kind of tell which rings are which. We also have our favorite pliers. Here I have some bent nose pliers that I made custom handles for, and then here I have a gradiated flat nose plier. I really like these because they're great for working with both large and small rings. I have two 10mm beads, one decorative bail, two 4mm beads, some earring backs, some ear hooks, and some head pins. And those are just because at the end of the project I'm going to show you some different ways that you can utilize it. So we're going to begin by closing our these six in these two different colors, like this row and this row, are 16 gauge 5/16 inch. This is standard wire gauge, or SWG. And it's the inner diameter is what's being measured, is the 5/16 of an inch. This is 18 gauge 5/16 in aluminum, and this is 18 gauge 3/16 in aluminum. So again, all the different tools and materials that we'll be using in this video are listed down in the video description below. For your reference, and we also have some Amazon affiliate links that if you follow through and like click and buy things through there, it really helps out our channel. So I'm going to close our smallest rings, and just for not having to say numbers a whole bunch, these are the 18 gauge 3/16 are our small rings, 18 gauge 5/16 are our large thin, and then 16 gauge 5/16 are our large thick. So hopefully that makes sense. So I have all of these closed, and then I'm going to go through and close our large thin rings. 1, 2. Whenever you're closing a ring, you want to make sure that it has a really nice, no little pokey bits, no little gap that you could fit like a hair or a fingernail or anything through. And whenever we coil and cut our own rings, a very small amount of material is removed. So I actually add in a little bit of pressure from each side to help close that gap. And this weave is called Helm chain, like the weave that this pattern is derived from. And it's a great precursor to a more complex weave known as dragon scale. And upon mentioning those, there should have been something popping up on the screen, and hopefully future Vaughn will have remembered to put links in the video description, but we'll see how that goes. And then for our other two rows of rings, I'm just going to open them. Whenever I open a ring, I just boop, open it like that. Being right-handed, I prefer to open it with like this as opposed to this, because for it to be like this, I'd have to weave kind of in towards me, whereas whenever I open it up like this, I can hold it and then hold a piece and just insert the ring like that. I hope that makes sense. But again, this is just the way that I enjoy doing this. It's more about the end result than necessarily how you get there. There's no wrong way to weave it, so long as it looks the way that you want it to, and everything's holding together really nicely. In chainmail, I focus more on the quality of the closures than the actual like how you're weaving the rings together. Okay, so we've got 3 open, 3 open, 3 closed, and 3 closed in our different sizes. And I'm going to begin by taking one of my large thick and threading 2 of our small rings on, and then closing it. And then I'm going to grab another large ring. I'm going to pick just one of the rings, of the small rings, and then I'm going to put another small ring on there. Please pardon any weird background noises. My neighbor's kids are out playing in their yard, and kids will be kids. It sounds like they're taking up metallurgy or blacksmithing or something out there. And so here you can see I just have them hooked together like this. Then I'm actually going to lay these guys down on the table to give myself a nice little flat surface, because I don't want any twists happening. And I'm also going to zoom in so y'all can get a good idea of what it is that I'm doing. So I'm going to come through and hook through that ring, and then I'm going to come through and hook through this ring, and then I'm going to close it. And then we're going to lay that back down on the table. And so you can see how that's kind of laying, you can lay everything out like that. But that is what we are going for. Just the 3 rings hooked together by 3 other rings. And then we're going to take our thin rings and lay them over like that. So see how they're kind of just sitting on top of the other rings? And if we put a incomplete next to a complete, you can see how these stacks are starting to happen. And so now from here, we can take another one of our large thick, and I'm going to hook through that small ring, and we can remove these other ones for now, just to make it a little easier. But yeah, I'm just hooking through that small ring. If our thin ring hops up onto it, just get your pliers in there, get it to come around so that it's hanging like that. So it's more captive or orbit than anything. And then you can see how I'm just holding things stacked together. Man, nothing will bring attention to your imperfect closures like the lens of a camera. And so you can see how I'm holding that just pinched between my finger and thumb. And the goal is to weave through this ring right here. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to hook through, making sure that it's only layered on top. This same technique is used in the Celtic Visions weave, as well as the Celtic Star, which those are both weaves that I highly recommend if you like this style. And then I've closed it. So now you can see we've got our first layer, then our offset second layer, and then our third layer. You can use this same 16 gauge ring for all 3 layers, but I've found it's very, very snug and kind of difficult to work with. So then we're just going to rotate around. I'm going to lay on our third and final silver ring, and then pick up another thick ring, hook through right there. Well, and it jumped on the ground, so there we go. And so we want to thread this thick large ring through the small, just like that. And then close. Man, with my regular eyes, like just, you know, from a foot away, it looks fine, but then I look through the zoomed in camera lens and it's like, nope. I think it might be time for me to get one of those magnifying lamp lens things, or new eyeballs, I'm not sure. So now we're going to add in our last thick ring, And we're going to hook through this thin one here, and then this thin one here. Well, small, sorry. I'm just yelling words. And it's just gonna sit like that. There we go. And that is a Celtic flower, or a Helm flower. It's whatever you want to call it. It looks like that. There we go. We made it. Woohoo! And now we can turn this into a pendant very easily with the addition of a fancy, cute little store-bought veil. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take one of the thin rings, find the closure on it, open it up just a bit, slide the bail on, and then close. And now we have a very lovely little pendant. I'm going to touch up this closure real quick. There we go. And what's nice about this one is it's also reversible. So you can have a darker side or a lighter side. And I think that's pretty neat. Another option is you could take another one of these small rings, the 18 3/16, 18 gauge 3/16, and you could attach it to these two rings on the bottom and attach a teardrop bead or something and have that hanging very nicely. And instead of a bail, you could have attached that to an ear hook and had some nice little drop earrings. But also, I want to show y'all a technique that I like to use using head pins, which is a piece of wire that has a flattened end. They also have like ball pins and stuff where it's a ball on the end, or anything to keep the bead from slipping off the end, which is the point. So we're just going to put that on there. You can see it's almost like a nail with a nail head. It just keeps it from sliding through. I'm going to slide on a 10mm bead, which I've found 10mm or larger works really well with this. And then you could take one of your Helm flowers and thread just through the middle here. And then you can see it actually behaves really nicely as a little bead cap. This one, you can see with the 10mm, it actually hides quite a bit of the bead. So I'm going to grab, here I have some very vibrantly colored and lovely ceramic beads. And this one is about a 12mm, I think. And I like the way it sits on that really nicely. But you can see it just makes a cute little bead cap. And by having the thin ring in the center layer, as well as only one ring, it gives it the mobility to kind of cup around the bead like that. And so from here, what we would do is we would take one of the silver beads and just slide that onto the top there. And what that does is it nestles down into that area. And then we would use our flat nose pliers. And we could either do like a 90-degree bend and do a wrapped loop, but I don't have a whole lot of room left on our wire. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to start spiraling inward. And this is just making a nice little coiled loop like that. And you can see that holds everything nice and snug. Having that 4mm bead helps keep that from shifting around. And then we would just take one of our ear hooks and slide that right on. And then close it. Just like that. And then we would do that to the other one. But I really love that as, you know, an earring design for, or, you know, just whatever you can think of, really. You could do this with smaller rings, keeping the same aspect ratio, which is like the same. I would use maybe the 18 gauge 3/16 for the large rings, and then use like a 20 gauge 1/8 inch for the small rings. though you might need to go even smaller than 1/8 of an inch, and use it as a bead cap on smaller beads. But that might be something for another video, getting into the micromail territory. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. I do hope that this tutorial was helpful to you. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them down below. And also, if you would like to share pictures of what you've made, you can post it to my wall on Facebook, or you can tag me on Instagram. Links for those pages will be down in the video description below, as will be a link to my Patreon. And that's if you've already liked and you've already subscribed and you'd like to support my channel even further, please consider visiting me over there. Pledges start at just $1, and the more you pledge, the more you get. We do weekly giveaways, which if you pledge $1, you get 1 entry. If you pledge $5, you get 5 entries. And then if you pledge $10 or more, you still get 5 entries, but you also get digital download content or craft crates, or just like based on, you know, however much you pledge. And then also, I just hope that this is helpful to you, and that if you watch this video or any of my tutorials and follow along and make basically exactly what I made, please feel free to sell it out of your booth. I get it, or on your website or your Etsy or wherever. I feel like you put in the time and effort, you bought the beads, sell it. Go, like, do good. I wish you luck in everything that you do. I get a lot of people asking me, is it okay if I like sell stuff that I made using your templates or using your tutorials? I'm like, yeah, do it. Go, do it. You've got this. So yeah, so good luck, you guys, and I don't know, I started rambling a bit, so we'll just cut it short here. Happy crafting. Sorry, it's brain farty up in here. But yeah, until my next video, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and until next time, happy crafting. Bye.